Hi everyone, welcome to SJC Nous. We are a journalism association in St. Joseph's College by the Department of English. This association has previously organized film screenings, invited film critics, journalists to come and talk to students. Today, I'm very pleased to have Rajesh Rajamani, who's a very dear friend, and also his new film, The Discreet Charm of the Savarnas, was released last week, and we are here today to talk to him about his film, the making of the film, and how it's been received, and his general thoughts on the atmosphere before and after the release of the film. So welcome, Rajesh. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Vijeta. Thanks for inviting us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So I'm glad to talk about the film. Yeah.
Last time Rajesh Rajamani came to St. Joseph's College was at Meta, where we had a session on film criticism by Rajesh Rajamani. It was a very fun session where he talked about the various ways in which gatekeeping occurs in the world of film criticism. And I'm so happy to have this conversation with him today, where I remember 2 years ago, I saw a very exciting post on Facebook, which released the trailer for The Discreet Charm of the Savarnas. I'd actually never seen the other film before, which is The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, if I'm not wrong. I didn't know about that, but I looked at this title and I thought it was amazing. And I remember immediately texting you and asking you when it's out and things like that. So happy that last week it came out. So this is what we're going to do now. I'm going to divide the sessions in a very stupid way, but I'm doing this primarily for selfish reasons. The first half of the session is the technical bits, which is I'll ask you questions that you may have already answered 100,000 times before, things about the experience of filmmaking and all of that. And the next juicy bits of the session I'll keep for myself, which is where I'm actually most interested in. I woke up today and I watched the film 6 times. And each of these 6 times, I remember laughing at the same parts. And I also remember being surprised at various newer parts. It took me a while to notice certain behind the stage giggling you were doing even inside the film. And that's what I'm most thrilled about. So I'd like to begin by asking you the idea behind the film and the general experience of arriving at that moment when you decided, okay, this is the film I want to make.
Right. See, I think there are a lot of things that are already in my mind. Like even though it's not that it was not consciously decided to make a film like this, but a lot of parallel thoughts were running in my head. I think one thing is always about when we talk on cast, like an Indian cinema, whenever Indian cinema takes anything on cast, it always makes it very depressing, sad, and violent, and always about the lower caste. So it almost as if the rest of the society is casteless. It's almost the Brahmin Savarnas are casteless, and caste is beyond them. So they have to go and reach others and try to document that. Almost as if it's like they have to find the poorest or the lowest in the caste hierarchy and document caste. As if I think they can just capture themselves in camera, and that would be a documentation of caste itself. But it never happens in our Indian cinema. So that's something I was generally thinking about. Like when if I make a movie, something on caste, maybe I'll document what's happening in the in the lives of the upper caste individuals. That was independently happening. And I think somewhere in 2018, early 2018, I came across a real casting call. In one of the Mumbai-based casting call groups, where one of the agents had asked, "We're looking for an actor who looks like Dalit." So this was a real call for a casting call. So this was there, and I think a lot of people called it out. A lot of people criticized it, and then I think it was taken down after a couple of days. But still, I think screenshots of that particular casting call, was floating around, and I just happened to see it. I found it very amusing. I mean, not very unexpected, but still very amusing. But then it's still that also just stayed in my head. Then I think one of the other days I just was watching some film, and I was actually watching 3 characters running to catch a train. I saw 2 men and 1 woman. They're running and they're catching a train, and suddenly it just struck me: what if these 3 characters are running to search for that Dalit character? The actor who looks like Dalit. So I thought if I can just combine these two moments, that ad and this moment, this independent shot from a film, I thought I'll have an interesting plot there. So then I think once I thought of this, then it became a very obsessive idea. I think I got very excited with the idea, and I think that's one thing that happens with all some exciting ideas is that they become very obsessive. Then you keep thinking about them all the time, and I think the plot itself falls in place. You don't have to sit and think. Without you making an effort, you're already thinking about it 24/7, and it fleshes out into something. Then once I had a fairly decent plot, then I started writing it. So that's how the film came about.
Where were you when you saw these three people running after a train? As in, was it at a station?
No. This was a film. This was some European film. It had nothing to do with any of these things. This is an independent thing. So I just saw that and I thought, oh, okay. And it just struck me that what if these characters are running to find this actor who looks like Dalit? So it's just a happy coincidence.
So amusing that you were watching a film on any regular day and suddenly this idea hit you and then you ran after it. That's
right.
Very inspiring. I like what you said about after a while, you don't even have to make an effort to consciously think about it. It just sort of stays with you.
Right.
How long did it take for you to get things assembled in terms of production, in terms of looking for these three people? So when I watched the film the first time, I saw these three people as in the Aruna and I forget the other two names. David, is it? And Swami.
Swami and Dilip.
Swami and Dilip, sorry. Dilip, Swami and Aruna. When I saw them first, they were spectacularly Savarna to me, and they just remained that and nothing like that. When I watched it obsessively today, I grew fond of them.
Right.
In that, and I think that's because of you. In that, and it's not a fondness where I'm in love with them or something, but it's a fondness where I just want to sort of pat them on their heads, which is, I think, what even you were doing to them throughout the film.
Right.
How do you assemble these three characters? How willing were they to do this, even though the plot of the film I'm sure it was very clear to them. How did they agree?
Even the actors?
Yeah, the actors.
So actually, initially, it took me a while because I was living in Bangalore when it started, auditioning actors. I think a lot of actors themselves were, Brahmin Savarna actors, And I think they were all little suspicious. They were also I think they were very curious. I think there was something curious. They were curious about the script. But I think, particularly you see Bangalore, because I thought, because it's going to be English, and I thought Bangalore has a very, active English theater crowd, so I thought I'll be able to find suitable actors. But so I was actually, trying to find, but I think it was not working out because, for some reason I was not very convinced with the people I was meeting then. Then I think I knew Kani. Kani was already, I'm familiar with her, but we hadn't talked much. But so I sent the script to Kani. Kani is a very established actor in Malayalam, and particularly in films which alternative cinema, in film festivals and all that. She's very popular among people who follow that kind of cinema. So once I sent to her, and she found it interesting. She said, I would like to do it, And she also, I think, that character is very different from what she generally does. So she found it it'll be very interesting for me to do this because I've not done something like this. And once she, got curious about the project, it became easy to convince everybody else because then everyone else, every other actor I wanted to meet, they wanted to be, working in a film with Kani, So they trusted the project because Kani trusted it. So it sort of was like that. But I like something you say because that's something I was actually thinking. I wanted this film to sort of, the movie is in some way, capturing them, and it's also in some way, these are the funny people, they are doing funny things. They're being serious, but they're actually doing funny things, But yeah. I mean, it's funny for the audience, but it's not funny for them. They're being very, well-meaning, very serious about it. Yeah. But one thing I also did think is that I want them to be in some way likable, because I think when you make a film or anything, even if you're mocking them mildly, heavily, whatever, they shouldn't become too dislikable, because then the audience wouldn't want to sit and watch it. You can't, make them hateable, like so I was very conscious of that. I was very conscious of the fact that the audience should enjoy watching. There should be something likable about these characters, so they enjoy watching it, even though we are sort of taking their case. Yeah.
What do you think makes them likable in the film? I found that, and I'm wondering what happened between the first time I watched the film and now. A lot changed.
Yeah.
And I grew very, very not just amused by watching these three people on screen. And like I said, I grew literally fond of them. And this was how I'm sure it was hard to regulate or sort of characterize them like that. In that there are these moments that we have in our body that are sometimes very bitter because they carry caste and we can't really do anything about it.
Right.
And when you're working with art, when you're producing art like this, it's very easy, and sometimes that seems to be the only escape for that bitterness to come out.
Right.
Nothing about this film was bitter. It seemed to come from a position of even love. I'm saying fondness, but also some kind of love for the idea of humor, love for laughter in that sense. So when you were making this film, I'm sure it took a really long time, and you sort of, you would wake up one day maybe angry, you'd wake up one day with lots of love, you wake up one day with lots of bitterness. How much of that entered the making of the film?
See, I think I think this anger also, I think, is often, people think anything on caste has to come from a place of anger. I don't really agree to that. I don't think it's often an angry thing. I find that like when it's like I think that the power, that the ones who are often the power structures, people who represent power structure, they're often, it's very easy to look at them in a funny way, because people who take themselves very seriously, people who sit in a lot of privilege, people who are ignorant and being indifferent, I think it's very easy. They're very great material for laughter, so that's what I think of it. So for me, it was, I just had to be accurate with documenting them. I think the likability also comes with the fact, because I think in some way they're relatable. We relate them with a lot of characters we know. In fact, the very idea of taking even Swami is, R.K. Narayanan's, from I want to take a likable name, because I think in an average reader, Indian literature reader, Swami is a very fond name. So we took all these fond names, Aruna, Dilip, they're all something particularly South Indian. There is a certain likableness of these names, in the names and the way they talk. I think there is something real and relatable, and that's why I think even though you're critiquing them with respect to the caste structure, I think they're sort of likable characters, and I think I was conscious of that, because and I think that I also was thinking that if I keep them real, that's good enough. I should just not overdo it. I should I don't have to make them bad for the sake of it. It's just, if they're just the way they are, I thought that's good enough. And that's what the effort was in capturing them, both in in screen and as well as the script.
That's really interesting. I mean, also that's something even I'm learning how to do. It's not an easy place to be right now on social media or elsewhere and not be angry.
Right.
Yeah. There's also a certain kind of manufactured rage that people seem to expect.
Right.
And I don't like that. Often I fall prey to it, and if they want rage, I give them rage. And it's ugly in that it's like some of us have become puppets now.
Right.
And so when you work on your film or when you do your writing, weren't you at all even a little tempted, especially when you were working on this film, to sort of give into a moment of unkindness and give them like a very extreme 100% villainy kind of role?
No. Actually, I was very scared that I'll do that. I think I was rather very conscious that shouldn't happen. I was very careful because I think sometimes what happens is, just for drama, sometimes as a storyteller, to dramatize something, you might overdo it. Then I thought the moment you overdo it, then people will think this people will stop there'll be disconnect with the audience. So I was very conscious that it's very relatable, and you should be able to relate with characters around you. Like everybody will, I think a lot of people also, even the audience, have said something like, I know people like this, or even I'm like this. So and in some way I wanted that. I think somebody said, this feels like me. I mean, like it feels like a slap, but I know this is also about me. And I think in some way, yeah. But I wanted that. I wanted them to sort of feel the slap, also agree that it's them. So that's I wanted that, and some way I think you got that. So
I'm really stunned, because that's a very hard combination to achieve and manage. Even that it's like the ulta of what Nagaraj Manjuli did with Sairat and Fandri, which is the slap that he gives to you at the end of the film.
Right.
You carry it, and even after the film is over. This is a different kind of slap altogether, which you sort of even welcome, and sort of even fall into and say, yeah, I deserve this. Chalo. It's like giving Gandhiji's other cheek type thing also. And there are specific ways in which you do this in the way I've noticed it. You can please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
In the living room scene, when all the three of them meet for the first time in Swami's house. They're watching a film, and I don't know why I missed it the first time I watched it. And the second time I watched it, I just started howling with laughter. It's 14th April, the day they decide to go out and go look for the film. And 14th April, Dilip wakes up in the morning, and I'm guessing it's around 7:30 or 8 in the morning, because Swami expects them to be home at 9. Why is this man reading Toni Morrison so early in the morning? That's the first question. And the second question is, how did you decide on Toni Morrison? I mean, that's one clear, this thing is there. Because when we go into Swami's room, there is a picture of vertigo. There is a picture of the white man's burden with the pest so bad, which are all deliberately there.
Right.
So this is not a question of characterization, but more a question of curiosity. How did you assemble these objects?
I think they came in. I think it's like, I wanted them to, like, again, this was picked from people around us, the characters, even the names, I mean, maybe I can tell you who these names are based on, but, so they are picked from people around, people we know and can easily, might have interacted with. So I think Afro-American writers is something, it's a particularly James Baldwin and some of the other writers, Toni Morrison, they've almost been fetishized in progressive upper caste circles, So they if you find it, they'll not know anything about caste, but they know everything about race, So the idea of Dilip was to somebody who knows everything about race, but he doesn't get caste. So I had two books I had in my mind, and this was also not very conscious. One was The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, or the other was Beloved, Then I told myself that, okay, The Pedagogy of the Oppressed would be too, like you said, it'll be too heavy a book to read at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I'll go for something else, So I wanted something milder, so that, okay, maybe he's already reading Beloved and, so he's continuing reading it. So I thought that's a much subtler, also, we wanted that Afro-American obsession, it runs throughout him. And also, it's sort of dramatic because he's the one who's blackened. He's the one with the black face at the end. So I thought that sort of falls in place,
There were also these bits where they were definitely, deliberately, subtly, not even subtly, very charming in bits of the film, where she punches him on the nose, and the next thing you know is a shot of the auto where that man is holding his nose up. I absolutely loved Dilip in the film, because his expressions were the funniest. And that man is lying there with his nose up in the air like this. He's sort of looking at him, and then he's looking at her. He's like this crying. And then there are bits in the film which are deliberately less charming. When Dilip asks the driver, is he asking the driver? Is that the driver he's asking?
It's a driver. Yeah, it's a driver he's asking.
Why is he asking the driver if he's read James Baldwin?
See,
Where did it come from? How did?
See, that certainly was a slight, deliberate exaggeration. But people like to talk about intellectual. I think there's a certain, again, a certain obsession people have. They want to talk about very intellectual stuff to working class people. They'll talk about Marxism. They'll talk about. So we thought, like, let's just push that a little more. Let's just, instead of Marxism or something, we'll just push it and make it, Afro-American authors, like black authors. There was a deliberate. I mean, we knew that it's a slight deliberate exaggeration, but that's also a reflection of what happens. People love to have this intellectual connection with the working class. And they theorize what working class lives are like. So it was sort of it was exaggerated bit there. Yeah.
But I didn't find that exaggerated at all. I found that it sort of added to this man's charm, even because no one gives him any bhav in the film anyway.
Right.
The girl is always shushing him. When he says Angela Davis, she's like, "I will shut up for a while." So that's always consistently happening. It also seems like he can only talk to people who don't understand what he's talking about.
Right.
And that's why, in that sense, he also brings this very lonely charm in the film.
Yeah.
And so I found those two extremes very interesting. That's why I wouldn't call this exaggeration at all, because it sort of works itself so perfectly in the film.
Yeah. I mean, exaggeration. I mean, also it's something we wanted. We wanted the character to be like that. Not as an accident, but it was very conscious. Like we wanted that. And also, I think the actor also brought. I think I should give it to the actor as well. He sort of he's one of those people who we rehearsed for a long time, and I think he sort of internalized that character a lot. And I think he's a fabulous actor. A lot of his body language, like you said, the auto he's looking at them, all that he brought in himself, that those are not even written, his body language, his sort of body humor is something he brought it himself to the character. So I think a part of what the charm that you said, I think it was written, but still I think he translated much better, the actor.
Okay. Towards the when we're sort of inching towards the end of the film, I like how Aruna sort of keeps doing too many things at once, and especially in conversation with Swami, she has to sort of constantly remind him what to say and what not to say. So those bits of political correctness in the film were the most, I thought, I think those are the spaces where Bernal was most required if the Savarnas were wanting it at that point. Especially when she sort of stands up in the train and says, people go through mental health problems. Do you know that? You can't say that.
Right.
That. And this is just a very straight question. Was that something that was directly borrowed from something that's happened?
Every line they speak is borrowed from real people. I wouldn't, not just that line, because I think something that happens often you see is that, even if somebody's fallen down and, if he's in pain and he uses a swear word because he's in pain, I think instead of helping that person who's fallen down, people will jump on the language he uses and, try to police them. The idea was to sort of how people don't care about the real experience or the pain that somebody is going through, but they're always willing to police, and particularly I think political correctness has become a sort of a tool to police often the less privileged ones, or often those who are not exposed to that sort of language,
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very privileged. It's easy for privileged people to accrue that, get that language, and it was sort of, and again, like I said, this is something people talk, I mean, like for Swami, he wants to find an actor, but I think, Aruna finds a way to police him even in that moment. So, yeah.
With the way Aruna was made, and what you said earlier about how this was also like a chance for you to sort of produce a film where the subjects are not us, the subjects are them. It's like a reversal of gaze of sorts. If the politically correct people would call it the reversal of gaze and other such language. But yeah, how it's like looking back with fondness, I've said, and also with humor and with anger and everything put together.
Right.
So that's, and I've seen this often also in your Facebook posts and your film essays, that there is a specific way in which you bring in a certain kind of satire, which is not usually a satire which is meant to pull apart or pull down. It's a satire that is a form of love. So my question to you, it could be far-fetched, but I'm just going to ask you anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think for you satire is a form of love? And this is an extension of what we've discussed before.
Yeah. I think more than love, I have to reflect. I'm very curious about, now that you said this, I'm very curious, and I think I might have to reflect on this, whether it comes from a place of love or something. But for me, a storyteller cannot lose his audience. I think that's more important for me. You cannot lose your reader or your viewer. You have to keep them engaged with you. I think that's very important. So I think that comes when like when you use when what even in your harshest criticism, if it's told in a likable way, I think you would have your reader or a listener or a viewer stay with you. I think the form of satire that's used is often to keep the audience engaged with the storytelling, because the moment, see, whatever I might claim that I'm saying something super important, but if the audience are going to shut down and they're going to lose interest, then it makes no sense. So I think I think that's very on a very basic level of communicating and keeping the audience interested. I think for me, I think that's what it comes from. I think, but I'm actually, to be honest, I'm curious with what you mentioned, and I might have to reflect more on it to sort of understand it.
I'm asking this because I was working on a piece, a food piece of sorts, like a fiction / food piece. And this used to happen at my, so when we moved into a largely predominantly Brahmin area, and our Brahmin neighbors. So there's this one Brahmin muddy, as it were, who used to come to our house every morning and steal our milk packets.
Right.
And she did this for 2 weeks consecutively. And my father used to run after saying, "Curly, curly, curly, curly," and nothing was enough to sort of get her to stop.
Right.
One day, she noticed, Brahmins have a radar, obviously. They'll obviously know when someone is not Brahmin.
Right.
So either because she noticed that my brother, when he was washing his two-wheeler or whatever, was not wearing what he was supposed to wear in this neighborhood. But the moment she got wind of the fact that we are Dalits, our milk packets were left alone. She didn't come anywhere near our milk packets.
Right.
And my father began rejoicing that, okay, our milk packets are safe now.
Right.
And this is a story I've told many times, and I was trying to sort of give it a release in some fiction form.
Right.
And when I was writing this woman character in the story, I don't know how it happened, but it began from a place of irritation with her. It began from a place of annoyance. And then in the process, I accidentally humanized her. And I didn't know how I did that, because I was building the narrative around her, what she did as soon as she woke up, how she came at our gate, and how she put her hand in, stole our milk packets, and all of it because she wanted one cup of coffee.
Right.
I accidentally humanized her.
Right.
And I actually kind of like where the piece is going right now.
Right. Okay.
So I'd like to ask you whether this, very often when we end up humanizing or villainizing people in art, in either in writing or in films, what does it do to us eventually? Meaning, how has the film affected you? If it's too existential a question, then I think I can maybe rephrase it by asking, during the making of the film and after you sort of finished making the film,
right,
did anything change with your relationship to art?
Well, see, one thing I think is, I agree with you. Like, I mean, even though while writing this film or filming this film, I'm not sure if I was deliberately trying to humanize these characters, but I think in general, I think, as any storyteller, like I certainly look up to filmmakers or writers for humanizing anything, because I think, we have all this, the caste structure and all the inequalities and all, but I think all great forms of art, if you realize, they try to universalize the human experience. That's why we watch a Spanish film, we watch a Japanese film, and they're all so disconnected to us. They're far away from us, but then we're sort of relating to them because I think there's something that the human experience, the human emotions, the human, what the human goes through. It's very universal. So I think that's something. I think. I think you all. I think all storytellers, aspire to sort of, capture that universal human, a shared human experience. So that's there, but I'm not sure. So that's always at the back of your head. But I'm not sure if that came out explicitly. Like you said, it might be accidental. Like maybe because it's the back of it, it could be accidental. But it wasn't a very conscious thing to humanize them. Yeah. I would say that. And if anything changed in me, I'm not sure, because I think it's also often I think any change, I think it generally takes me, and that is for the kind of person I am, it takes me a long time to sort of reflect and understand if any change has happened. It takes me, like, maybe if I make 2-3 films and then I look back at what I felt like 3 years back or 4 years back and what I feel now, then I think it might be easy for me to see if there's any change. But like over just this one film, I'm not very sure if I'm not able to accurately understand my own feeling towards art. Yeah.
What about the actors themselves? Did they come to you with interesting anecdotes about what was happening to them in the process of the filmmaking?
I think it's something. I think something happened to them. As I think initially, I think because I think most of them have not necessarily actively engaged with anti-caste ideas and or the politics of anti-caste politics. I think certainly one thing happened, not just the cast, also the crew, some of the others people who worked in the film. I think I certainly seen that they have become very articulate, and the anti-caste politics are certainly, they have certainly understood it a lot more better. I'm nobody to sort of judge it, but just purely based on my conversation with them, I find a sea of difference between how we started and how 2 years later we are right now. I think sometimes I feel like they are articulating more accurately even before I understand something. I feel some of them even articulating, writing on Facebook and all. I'm like, oh, okay. Like 2 years back, we have to explain to this person, and this person has now become a lot more active, on writing on these things. So that certainly happened, and I think in some way, I think playing this part, they've also internalized the politics through the process, I think. Yeah.
All right. Okay. One thing that's been troubling me for a little while now, and this I'm asking you as a fellow, as a writer and as someone who is a strong voice in the anti-caste struggle. So I was looking carefully at the title, The Discreet Charm of the Savarnas, and then suddenly I wondered if when Dalits and Bahujans are in the business of making art, producing art, or writing of films, we don't know where it's going in terms of the audience. No matter who we keep in mind as audience when we make the film or when we write about something, there's a certain way in which the Savarna discourse around Dalit and Bahujan art has been into extremes. Either it's extremely generous and extremely loud,
right,
and extremely passive and extremely indifferent.
Right.
I'm very, very, very cautious and scared about the first response, which is extreme generous and extreme appreciation and extreme praise.
Right.
My fear, especially when I write and they read and they respond, is that I'll actually never be able to tell if I'm a good writer, if simply by the things that they are saying.
Right.
because for all I know, I could be a very mediocre writer. And but going by all these appreciations and praise and things like that, at one point it sort of gets to your head, and I might even stop trying. I might even stop trying to be good because I'm so happy with the praise, because I'm so happy with the appreciation. So in some sense, even though deliberately their appreciation is not meant to lock us in mediocrity, it's always there, that threat, the threat of mediocrity.
That's true.
And they'll definitely benefit if we continue to be mediocre. I haven't been able to unlock myself from this fear, from this threat. What is it like for you?
No, I think I totally, I like 100% agree with what you said, and I think I think I used to feel very similar to what you said, but it's like, because whatever you say, even if I put burp and people are like, oh my god, this person has burped, and they'll put more power to you, they'll share it and put hearts and all that, there'll be like 100 hearts and shares for it, and you're like, you wonder, like, have I done something extraordinary here, so that certainly happens, because what happens often with people, upper caste, Brahmin Savarnas, so often trying to also I think in some way they're well-meaning also, so they but I think
discreet.
But I think it's also like, I think for them everything like just whatever one says, just appreciating is also part of their anti-caste activity, like it's like it's like, because I think that's honestly, but I think that's their burden, because if they're not able to, either they're being too critical of an art form which is produced by somebody who's not them, either they're extremely critical of it, saying it's rubbish, it's not meritorious, or they're going excessively praising it. So either way, I think it's their burden that they're unable to appreciate and understand the art piece for what it is, So I think so initially, like you said, I used to feel very suspicious of excessive praises and things like that. But over time, I think what happened is, I think it was sort of, but it took me some time. I don't know how it happened, but I think I brought it down to the satisfaction to what more important for me is to bring it to my own satisfaction level. Like probably I have a certain expectation of myself when I write or make a film, and I think like so even things that I write sometimes. Another article might have been more popular than the other article, but I might not be very happy with it. So I've sort of over time, try to value my own judgment of my own work, and be satisfied or not satisfied with my own assessment of it. Because I think the problem is, I think Brahmin Savarnas can never be. I think it's actually a very sad thing, because they can never be completely honest, in the sense either they can be too critical or they can be too appreciative, but then again, it's their headache. I don't think we have to worry about it. It's like we don't have to worry. And also, I think to be honest, I mean, it might be exaggeration. I think even if one thinks one is going to be mediocre, I strongly think no virgin can be ever as mediocre as the popular Brahmin Savarnas. So I think so I don't think there's any need to worry about mediocrity. Yeah, I like what do I do? I just try to sort of see if I'm honest with what I'm writing or doing. Like if I'm saying something which I honestly feel, I think that's all I try to measure when I try to do. So if I'm honest and if I'm happy with whatever I've done, I think that's good enough. Is what I say. What I tell myself. Yeah.
Thank you. That sort of answers a question in my head that I was asking it primarily also because it's a very strange time for Dalits in terms of occupying a world that is urban and English speaking and access to specific modes. I'm also speaking about myself here. I'm talking about also art, producing art in these times. When people consistently demand a certain kind of rage from you.
Right.
how do you continue doing what you're doing without giving in? I mean, of course, where there is rage and when you feel it, you give it, you show it.
Right.
But where you're not comfortable with the discourse of rage and the discourse of anger surrounding Dalits all the time. So as you pointed out, the idea of anti-caste struggle doesn't always have to come from anger. It can also come from other places.
Right.
How hard has it been to sort of hang on to your style, your voice, which is not angry?
I think it's not been very. I think I mean, like I said, it's sort of been easy, I would say, because all I keep telling is like to stick to what I want to say, like I think I keep reminding myself, like sometimes, like you said, it's very, I can write something angry and, it can have immediate audience, it's very tempting. It might be tempting, but I just tell myself, like, even for the silliest of the things I write, I just ask myself, like, like, do I really want to write this? Do I feel this some way? And if I feel, that sort of, agrees with my real feeling, then I write it. Otherwise, I just try not to get into that. It's I think maybe the initial days of writing, regularly, I think the initial days, it could have been very tempting to fall into a certain expectation. Because yeah, now that you say that, I remember this. So I remember when I started writing a lot more frequently on, anti-caste stuff initially. So I used to get a lot of likes and shares on Facebook. So then, but I also write on cinema. So when I used to write on cinema, I never used to get likes and shares. So I'd be like, what the hell is this? It's like, you write something critiquing somebody on anti-caste perspective, then, people are engaging, but you talk about some, great cinema you loved or some music you like. People don't want that. People don't want this performance, because I think in some way, if you want to talk about cinema and music, we have other people. We have yeah. You stick when we want to consume anger, we'll come to you. You don't change genres type. But I also said,
I think we've lost you, Rajesh. Are you here? Okay, just give us 2 minutes. We will come back. I'll find out what's happening. Absolutely. It's been raining consistently. Yeah, I think I can see you. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so this power cut, I had to come up. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Oh shit, I'm so sorry. Is it? Are you able to? Is it okay? You can manage.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting thing you were saying about how they only sort of you're able. They only want you to talk when they want you to talk, basically.
Right. And also, more than when to talk, I still what to talk about. So because I think they decide who talks about cinema, who talks about culture and art, and who's angry. So I think it's also a sort of expected performance out of Bahujans and Dalits. There's a certain performance. I think it's almost become a sort of a commodity market. If they want to consume anger, and if they want to see performance of anger, I think they often come to witness Bahujan speaking on cash. So I think it's certainly very tempting to sort of fall for that. But I think it's I think I would say that the initial days when I was writing frequently, I could see this. So I think I've sometimes played to this also. So when I write on cinema, often I don't get enough engagement on. Then I thought, oh my God, nobody is reading or writing or engaging with this. Maybe I should write something on cash. And then you write something on cash, immediately you get a lot of attention on that. But I think it was probably initially tempting, but over time, what I've decided is like I'm not going to fall for this, But I could see this happening, Once I realized what was happening, with the kind of engagement that's happening. So then I realized that I shouldn't fall for this, but I should just write what I really want to write, not to play to the gallery, but to stick to what I really want to write. So yeah.
How? Wait, how are we doing for time? Okay, I think Okay, I have one question to ask you, but I'm going to put it on hold and see if there are any questions on the live chat.
Right.
Drishti, are there any questions on the live chat? If there aren't, then I can. Okay. Okay. A student that I was talking to badly wants to know what is next for you in terms of filmmaking. Your next project.
So I have like a couple of ideas. Also, I think so. What happened is I watched this Tamil movie called 96 a year or two back, and actually I realized that. So when I first made the short film, I was very sure that my first short film will not be about romance, because all first short filmmakers, they make often about romance. It's often set in a coffee shop, and it's about two people, because it's also sort of simpler to have a shoot it, like two people sitting over a coffee table. So that's something I deliberately told myself I don't want to do that. But after seeing the kind of attention and the kind of crowd which came watched 96 and all, then I realized that maybe romance is not such a bad idea. Romance is something. It's like all classic movies in some way, or often romantic movies also. Whatever we consider as classic literature or classic cinema, it's often to touch romance in some way. So I was very curious. Okay, maybe I was very curious to document romance, probably from my own perspective. Like how I understand it. I thought I should experiment with it. That's what I'm trying. I'm in the process of writing something which will document romance in some form. So that's what I've been thinking. So I think certainly that's something that's changed since this film. My aversion to romantic stories has changed, and now I feel a lot more. Because also it's very, because when you make something like a social commentary like this, then I'm also scared that people start expecting the same thing. So what happens to my Facebook post? That they want some sort of anti-caste commentary all the time from you. So I also thought, if I do something else, which is something I like, naturally. So that's something I've been thinking about. I'm trying to write too. I don't know how it will pan out, but I'm in the process of writing it.
Do you have any book projects in mind? That's my question. I've always been interested in asking that.
Oh, book? No, actually, there's something I've always wanted to write. I often feel like the Tamil music composer Ilayaraja. I think people often write about him, but I think there's a lot to write about him. I often, there's one fantasy is about to write about him. Because there are multiple facets to him, multiple facets to his music, and often that's not captured. People often talk about that he was, people talk about his music, and people often compare it to Rahman and people before that. But I think he is one very phenomenal Tamil composer. And I think of him almost a very important Tamil icon, as big as Thiruvalluvar or Avvaiyar in the history of Tamil culture itself. So I think, one of my fantasies is to someday write a book about him. That's one thing I keep thinking about, but I don't know how that's gonna pan out too.
Thank you for that. We've reached the end of our session, and if there are any questions on the YouTube live chat, Drishti, please let me know if there are any questions. The other question that the same student asked was very technical film related question. She wanted to know if uh, if a Savarna filmmaker is interested in making a film like The Discreet Charm of themselves.
Right.
What would you like to watch on screen, directed by a Savarna person about themselves in the similar style that you have made?
Right. I think that's. I don't know. I think there's so many stories to be told about them. See, because all these the Savarna spaces, in our cities, they're often very well guarded places. You never know what's happening in there. Like also like it's easy for the camera to enter a slum, but a slum camera doesn't enter these an agraharam or all these pure places. Supposed pure places. I would be really interested in any story that documents their life, and tells it for what it is, because we hardly see the stories which often come from the upper caste Brahmin Samanas. They never say it never documents. It never offers any social commentary on them. So anything any documentation from them about themselves, I think that will be very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is interesting what you said about the camera. It's very easy for a camera to enter a slum, but not
Right,
people.
right.
The style of the film itself is part documentary and part a short story and part a short film and part documentary. And it is a very, if I could use the word, ethnographical in its approach in terms of how it observes Savarna people in their living room.
Right.
The camera to sort of capture that. I'd like to congratulate you because I have never ever watched a film like this before, while howling with pain through the time I'm watching it.
Right.
And also just as puzzled with the questions you're raising in the film.
Right.
In terms of the serious lack within Savarna filmmaking about the things that you've shown us in the film.
Right.
So I'd like to really congratulate you for that, because I think it's a very, very, very good film in terms of everything it manages to do. It makes you laugh. It makes you want to reach out for Bernal. It makes you want to go back home with a slap. So Nagraj Manjule meeting, I don't know. We don't have that other option open yet. So I think I'm definitely hoping that you're filling it in. So
thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, Rajesh. And thank you very, very much for making the time to speak to us. Sorry, Drishti, do we have questions? Yeah. Oh yes, that's something I completely missed. So yeah, Imphal talkies.
Yeah, so in fact, I think the longest it took us to find the right music for the film. It took, because I think we finished the edit and it took us almost 6 months to find the right music. Because I think except A. Rahman and Ilayaraja, I just spammed everybody. I found the numbers. I contacted almost every music composer possible. But I think eventually a friend recommended Imphal Talkies, and I listened to the songs and I realized they're exactly what I want for the film. Because I think what Imphal Talkies does is exactly in some way what the film attempts to do. It makes they have a very strong social commentary or political commentary in their songs, but at the same time, it's very unlike what you expect a political song to be. They're very funny, they're very peppy, they're very lively, they're very high energy songs. It might be about a serious issue, but it's actually it's almost like it's a dance number, but it also has a political commentary in their song. So I just I contacted them, and I think in fact I think Aku from Imphal Talkies, he understood the film without me having to explain. I think it was almost like I mean, it is almost like meeting a soulmate. It's like he doesn't talk much at all. He doesn't talk much. He doesn't say anything at all. And I just send him 2 emails and a few text messages, and he just sent me the songs. And I knew. I think I was just very extremely lucky to have found him, because he understood the film without me explaining anything. And I think he was probably the first person to say that I think this movie is very good even without music. So I thought, no, we're gonna have music.
That's nice, because the face of the nation, as you pointed out, especially that song, usually people don't really pay attention to song if there is something fascinating happening on screen. But what you pointed out about his asking and teasing, he's teasing us in the song, and it's happening so again, very subtly, very discreetly, that it takes a while for you to sit up and continue to feel the sting on your face. So especially with you will be the face of the nation, that song, and at the exact moments in the film that it comes.
I
think that he's done a fantastic job.
I think he just understood the film, and in fact I was very surprised that, because initially I was very worried this man is not talking anything, like he doesn't talk, he doesn't say anything, and then he just gets back from the studio and sends me the song. But the very first song I heard, and I was like, oh my god, this man, I'm just so glad I found this man, it's like that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I'd like to go back to what Arusha pointed out. So the name of that film and poster eventually for I keep calling him David. I don't know why, because he looks.
Dilip.
So for Dilip to sort of appear on the poster of his own film like that, and he's looking in. That's why I told you he's very expressive through the film, and that poster face he made was sort of like the culmination of everything that was sort of happening in the film. Was sort of building towards that moment, and when he's sort of staring at the person, and that that's the behind the scene giggling that I was referring to. When we began. Drishti, what's the next question? I'm going to repeat the question because I think she will be muted when it's going on.
I've unmuted myself. So
okay.
So the second question is from Arul sir. He asks, would the charm of the Savarna characters be more or less discreet if they were less English medium?
I told him he should be moderating this session.
The English part of it's like, again, like I said, I worked in Bombay for almost 6 years, and so I've seen characters speak in English like this, like the way the characters do in the film, So I think it was again to accurately capture them, like if they speak Hindi or or Tamil or something else, it could not, it may not have exactly captured the real lines that I may not have. I'm going to have to translate it, and I'm going to have lost what they really speak like, So the idea of making this film in English also was to, document their lines the same way they speak, That was the attempt at making them writing the film in English.
I think this is also Arulmani's way of hissing at the Savarnas.
Right.
He has this habit of, so that, the thing that's persistently very present in the film as another character itself is the city of Bombay. I was very curious. I thought the film was shot in Chennai. So how did that pan out? I mean, did you shoot all of it in Bombay, even the living sections?
No. Obviously, only the outdoor parts we shot in Bombay, and the indoor parts were shot in Chennai. Because of budgetary constraints, we have very small budget. So because of that, but it was set in Bombay because I think Bombay is a very it's a very vertical city. Like the southernmost part of Bombay is actually where the most elite Colaba, Cuthbert is where the most elite stay, and you keep going north, the socio-economic groups completely changes. It completely varies as the most elites stay in the south, and most of the working class people stay in the northmost part of the city, and that's not even though you have slums all through the city, but when you go north, you find a very marked change in the socio-economic demography. That's not true with, say, a Bangalore or Chennai, because these are all a lot more circular cities, And also, I felt like if it's a vertical city, then Bombay is a city where if you're rushing for time, then you're forced to leave your cab or a car and take a train. That doesn't again happen in Bangalore or Chennai. So all the drama that we wanted in the film, I think Bombay fit perfectly. Plus, it had Chaitya Bhumi also somewhere in between their route. So I think I think Bombay fell in place for us. So we didn't even think twice whether it should be set anywhere else.
That's the other thing that I wanted to sort of congratulate you on. There's a specific mutedness in terms of not pointedly making 14th April visible anywhere in the film in that very spectacular way.
Right.
The date 14th April itself is sort of casually there, and it's very easy to miss. But what's not missable is the fact that outside the taxi, there is everything that they are missing.
Right.
Ambedkar and Ambedkar's. So people sitting there on the footpath, drawing a picture of him, and people selling his books, and it's happening out there, and that's the only actually visible thing. And I'm very sure that in the first viewing of it, lots of people would have definitely even missed that, thinking it's just the generic Mumbai traffic in that way. What is the mutedness of the 14th April? Because that sort of made it all the more, all the more thrilling to watch. That there's no Ambedkar photo in the living room, and of course there doesn't have to be. And there is 14th April, and that's sort of more.
Right. Oh, that's actually again to not reveal too much. Like I think we don't want the first time viewer to see anything so clearly. For them, because also it happens when they're watching a TV scene. That's a Satyajit Ray's film plays there. So we wanted them to focus on Satyajit Ray and miss out the date. So that was deliberately done that way. But then if somebody watches the second or the third time, then they'll be like able to relate. Oh, already a clue was thrown earlier, about the date. So we wanted that to sort of be there, but not so visible. I think that was a deliberate way to keep it. Yeah, deliberately done. Yeah.
It definitely worked.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah. Drishti, are there any more questions? Yes. Okay, sure. Sorry, the interested in translating the book. Oh, sorry, not that. I thought there was another Drishti who messaged me. Sorry, I'm really sorry. Continue.
Right. No, I saw some. In fact, I saw some few pieces on the film, including Scroll. I mean, Scroll didn't have a piece, but Scroll shared it with a headline, and there was Midday, and there was arre.com. I think what happens is the movie shifts the focus on the upper caste, and I think in some way, I think they're so uncomfortable with it. They want to make it about Dalits or violence in some way. So I think that's a good thing. I think because I think if people are resisting the film, then it also means the film worked in some way for them. So they're resisting and turning the gaze back at the lower caste. So I think I'm sort of it's a very roundabout, but it's flattering in a way that they want to turn the gaze away from them. That's what I think.
Do you think some of them have been extremely innocent to miss the point entirely? Has that happened?
No, I think they got the point. I think it's like either people even both. I think both people got it. People who are maybe going excessively praising it, or people who are trying to turn make the film about something else. I think they got the point. In fact, I think to be honest, the Dalit character that is searching. For me, that was only an excuse, because that's just an excuse for me. If you see the film, there's hardly any Baujan character. Even the drivers, you don't see the drivers, or one driver just appears for a fraction of a second. Like we have we deliberately invisibilized Baujan characters. There is no, because you find a security guard or a domestic worker or a cook in all this house. it's very easy to see working class people, but we deliberately invisibilized Bahujans in the film so that the focus stays on the upper caste, And I think the only time you find Bahujans or Dalits is in the Chaiti Bhumi gathering. But otherwise, we deliberately, and the last character, of course, the last character they meet, we deliberately sort of wanted to focus to remain on the Brahmin Savarnas, and if they still miss it, I think good luck to them. I say, yeah.
We didn't talk about the Palakkad Brahmin at all. Who was all kinds of colorful and all kinds of wonderful.
Right. No, also, there is this one thing about I often see this conversation with Brahmins, particularly Tamil Brahmins and Palakkad Brahmins.
Father is this, sister-in-law.
Yeah. The Palakkad Brahmin in some way considers himself superior to even the Tamil Brahmins. So there a hierarchy among Brahmins where the South Indian Brahmins thinks they are superior to the North Indian Brahmins, and among the South Indian Brahmins, the Tamil Brahmins think they're superior to the others, and the Palakkad Brahmin is like thinks they're the best of both worlds, So they're in some way they're the most in the hierarchy, the top most in the hierarchy according to them, and it was very. So we thought we should document that as well,
That is a beautiful moment in the film where he's actually very seriously explaining also, my mother is from here and father is like, what the fuck is happening here? And then suddenly it freezes there.
Yeah. Because that's again something I've always seen with Brahmin friends. It's they're very particular to know what subcaste and gotra on all the finer details, because they want to know if they are some way related or not. I think that's an immediate feeling for them, So it was just that,
And that beautiful bottle of red wine, which is just sort of sitting there, and our Dilip, who is sort of lolling on the chair and holding it, and of course he's read Toni Morrison in the morning and he's drinking his own in the afternoon. That is my favorite bit in the film, the Palakkad Brahmin bit, and his ancestral home and his best employer award and everything. So the landscape was muted and not muted at once. Even though these characters were doing strange, mad things, talking to each other, and then some Tinder is happening, and then some this is happening.
Right.
What do they do in the car though, where they're all sort of singing and dancing? Suddenly they break into a.
Right. And I think we also wanted to, I think we at several places we want to do a little exaggeration, we wanted these characters to, because they live in their own bubble, we just wanted to highlight the fact how they can easily slip into the bubble. They have an urgent need to go about. It's like they're easily slipping into the bubble. They'll debate about Rumi or Khalil Gibran or so it's like they're always slipping into their. So irrespective of the urgency, they're very capable of slipping into their own privileged world. I think it was certain exaggeration. In fact, that portion was slightly longer, but then the editor was a little merciless, and he thought, okay, you just want to, so he said you're overdoing it here, so we might have to keep it shorter. So that was sort of shortened, yeah. But that's to denote them slipping into their own world, yeah.
Did you ever think of bringing back the Palakkad Brahmin guy? In the ending or whatever?
No. Because I think when the plot came, I realized that three things fell in place. Like one, that they're going to search an actor who looks like Dalit, and then I thought it should happen on Ambedkar Jayanti. And the third thing is they're not going to find anybody, so they're going to blacken one of them. I decided they'll have to black one of their faces, because that's what like again Satyajit Ray himself has done it. I think in one of his films he had an Adivasi character, and Simi Gerwal played the character, and he blackened out. So I thought it's these three things were immediately decided. So I didn't have any reason to bring back the Palakkad character.
Congratulations on giving us that character, though, because
thank you.
He's definitely something. Huh?
Yeah. No, also, I think I should thank all the actors. In fact, I think they sort of brought in their own slight mannerisms to the character, and they sort of made it better. So yeah, I should thank them too. Yeah. Even you said you liked that Dilip drinking wine. I think the actor wanted. He asked me, "Can I wear my sunglasses?" I said, "Okay, wear it." So those improvisations were brought by the actors. So yeah.
It's a brilliant cast. I mean, all of them seem to have come together, and this is when people talk about intersectionality, sometimes I just want to sort of roll my eyes, because I really don't understand the meaning of that word anymore.
Right.
It seems I have found an answer finally, because it seems to have happened not deliberately or accidentally, but without drawing attention to itself as an intersectionality project, it's happened.
Right.
I wouldn't want to call it that, because I think I want to give the entire credit for sort of carving the first film of its kind to you. Thank you for giving us this. I'll be screening this film for many years to come now to all my students. And I really hope that after the pandemic is over, you can come to our college and meet the students. Thank you very much, Rajesh.
So, thanks for doing it.
Thanks for taking the time for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's always fun to talk to you, and I'm glad to give me this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we can take those two questions. Rajesh, are you okay for time?
Yeah. No, we'll quickly take it. Yeah, I'm cool with it. Yeah.
Okay.
One question is something I think you just referred to. The question asks, why does the ending show the character's face blackened in the poster? Does it mean they continue with their imagined stereotypes, beliefs, and nothing changes?
Yeah, that's true. I think certainly nothing changed for them. They found a solution. So yeah.
The other question is, what made you think about turning the gaze towards the Savarnas versus telling a story about Dalit Bahujan? I think you've answered this. Who are finding their own predominantly Savarna. Yeah. But would you? Yeah. But any parting thoughts about what it's like to have made the film as an artist? What is it like to have finished your first project and it's out there now?
No, I, to be honest, I think until it released, I was very critical of my own film. Like I said earlier, I told I think the filmmaker ends, and then the film critic in me gets up, and I'm just finding all the faults with the film. And I think after people sort of received it reasonably well, I think I've become also kinder to the film. I'm like, okay, maybe I was too harsh with what I've done, but I think people have liked it, so maybe it's okay. Like I can let it be in peace and move on to the next one. So in some way, I think I've been very hypercritical on the film myself. I think because as a first filmmaker, there are a lot of things we wanted to do, and I think we couldn't do those things because of time or resources. Sometimes just we didn't. It would have needed a lot more time for us to do, but the absence of that, so I find only for all the problems of the films. But now that people have sort of been kind to it, I feel like, okay, I'm sort of at peace, and I can, I also feel kinder to the film now. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Rajesh.
Thanks a lot, Vijeta. Thank you.